See below, storm wind blow.
Chapter 1. As usual. The tentacle came aboard as if it had been invited. Tavaro let it. It slid over the side, plank by plank, slick as spoiled egg and pale as drowned moonlight. His boat already carried bite marks, acid pits, claw gouges, scorch scars, one suspicious hole he refused to discuss, and a dark stain from a moor spawn that had tried to turn itself inside out after he killed it. The stain had never washed away. Tavaro had grown fond of it. The tentacle crept past his left heel. He kept his face turned toward the sail, humming like a man with no concerns except wind, rope, and the excellent shape of his own shoulders. The boat drifted in a lazy circle through waters touched by the Mawdeep. It had been doing that for 3 days, or 5. Time went thin out here. The sea stretched wide and blue. The sun kept throwing itself down and dragging itself back up, and Tavaro kept waiting for something hungry to decide that a lone boat with a lone man aboard looked easy. It was insulting how long the hungry thing had taken. The tentacle touched his ankle. Tavaro sighed. Oh no. It froze. He looked down. The tentacle tried, with no skill at all, to become a harmless length of wet rope. That is embarrassing for both of us. The child mark under his ribs gave one sharp pulse. Tavaro pressed his tongue against his teeth and looked down at the small handprint burned dark into the skin above his left side. It was half hidden beneath older scars and newer battle marks, small enough that a real child could have made it. It had not come from battle. It had come from the first wound. The day the sea gave him up, the gods took him in, and men found a title cruel enough to last. Unwanted Son. The mark pulsed again. Yes, thank you. I know I am talking to bait. The tentacle twitched. Not you. It began to slide away. Tavaro moved. The Skybone Line woke inside his right arm. It always hurt. That was the first rule of gifts. Anyone who said a divine gift came without pain had either never received one or had died before the pain arrived. The cord stirred beneath his skin, sliding along bone, warm as blood and colder than fear. Tavaro hooked 2 fingers into the seam at his wrist and pulled. Pale line unspooled from his flesh without blood. It ran over his palm in a living coil, then snapped straight as the anchor came free. The anchor was not a hook, no matter how many children in the Sulari Isles sang it wrong. It was a curved length of skybone, heavy, pale, and rude to everything it entered. Tavaro drove it down. The tentacle punched wetly against the plank, pinned in place. For one fine breath, Tavaro smiled. Then he looked closer. Tiny feelers sprouted from the end of the tentacle. They trembled and opened like pale little fingers around a mouth. His smile packed its belongings and left. Mouth feelers meant something else. Mouth feelers on a tentacle, this thick, meant the mouth they served was going to be rude. Aeon's breath, Tavaro muttered. The sea answered by rising, not with a wave. Waves had manners. This came up in a broad, pulsing swell that lifted the boat by the belly. The pinned tentacle went rigid. The deck groaned under Tavaro's feet. He turned. A limb wider than his body broke the surface. Water poured from it in sheets. Suckers opened and closed along its length, each one big enough to take his face and keep it. The limb climbed into the air until it blocked half the sky. Tavaro craned his neck. Well, he said, someone has been eating. The child mark burned. Yes, I see it. The limb fell. Tavaro jumped. The boat vanished beneath him, in a sound like a hill being punched apart. Planks exploded. Ropes snapped. The sail folded into the sea. A splinter, the length of Tavaro's thigh, whipped past his cheek and took a ribbon of skin with it. Then the water swallowed him. Cold closed over his head. He hit hard enough to send bubbles from his nose and pain through his ribs. The Skybone Line remained in his hand, still tied through his arm, still fastened to a chunk of deck and tentacle somewhere above. The cord tugged. Tavaro kicked toward the light. Something wrapped around his waist. The pressure came so fast, He had no time for a joke. The tentacle cinched around him and squeezed. Air burst from his lungs. His ribs bent around the grip. Tavaro's vision flashed white, then blue, then black at the edges. The tentacle dragged him upward. He broke the surface with no breath to spend on being grateful. Water poured from his hair and beard. He hacked once, got nothing useful, and looked toward the thing hauling him in. The sea ahead bulged. A small island rose from it. No, not an island. Islands did not have skin. The body breached in glistening folds. Dark grey and slick, muscled beneath a hide ridged with scars and barnacled growth. Around its center, 9 mouths opened and closed in slow hunger. 8 were ringed with thrashing feelers, each feeler tipped in pale venom bulbs. The 9th sat in the middle, a stone-colored beak, jagged and wet, opening wide enough to split a house. The Ninemaw. Tavaro had heard the name from fishermen, who had never sailed within 100 leagues of Mawdeep water. Fishermen collected terror, the way merchants collected debts. Most of their stories were twice as large as truth. This one had been sold short. The central beak clacked. The sound shivered through the water and into Tavaro's teeth. As usual, he wheezed. The tentacle dragged him closer. His pinned arm was locked against his side. The Skybone Line ran from his wrist, across the monster's limb to the wreckage, still stuck in the smaller tentacle. He could feel the cord shuddering with the Ninemaw's strength. The child mark burned under the tentacle's pressure. Tavaro let out the last scrap of breath in his chest and went slack. The tentacle tightened in triumph. He drove his trapped elbow downward. Bone met blubber. His other arm wrenched against the grip at the same time. The motion gave him no room. Then a finger width, then a hand width, and that was enough. Tavaro drove his elbow again. Something inside the tentacle popped. The Ninemaw shrieked. All 9 mouths joined the sound. It came like stones scraping against thunder. Tavaro's skull rang. The tentacle spasmed. He dropped. His feet hit the Ninemaw's back and slid at once. The hide gave beneath him like wet leather over moving muscle. He windmilled one arm, lost dignity, found none nearby, and crashed down on one knee. The knee did not enjoy that. "Fine," he gasped. "We are all having feelings." One of the mouth feelers lashed across the monster's back. Tavaro threw himself aside. It caught his thigh instead of his belly. The pale bulb at its tip brushed skin. Fire entered him. Then the fire disappeared. His leg went numb from hip to knee. "Oh, that is cheating." Another feeler struck. Tavaro rolled under it and came up on his good leg. The world tilted. The Skybone Line snapped back into his grip as the anchor tore free from the broken plank and tentacle meat. A chunk of wood came with it, swinging at the end of the cord like the saddest shield in any age of the world. Tavaro looked at it. The child mark pulsed. "Do not judge my tools." He yanked the cord, caught the slab of deck in his left hand, and took the next strike on the wood. The venom bulb hit with a wet slap. Pale venom sizzled through the grain. Tavaro shoved the slab upward and swung the skybone anchor in a low arc. The anchor cut through the feeler. The severed tip hit the Ninemaw's back and spasmed. Bulbs flashing sickly white, then dimming. The mouth that owned it screamed. Good, clear feedback. 2 more feelers came hunting. They did not have eyes. They had those trembling little fingers at the ends, tasting air, tasting heat, tasting whatever part of him the Mawdeep had decided counted as food. Tavaro hopped back on one leg. "Come on, then," he said. "I have several excellent parts left." The Ninemaw shifted beneath him. A greater tentacle lifted behind him, tall as a watch hill, water raining from it. It hovered, deciding where to crush. Tavaro hated a thoughtful monster. The tentacle began to fall. No time for anything large. Small, Tavaro slammed his thumb against the beetle mark near his wrist. The mark answered. His bones folded. The body remembered every change as an argument. Man became beetle between one heartbeat and the next. The Ninemaw's hide became a dark plain slick with brine and ridges. The falling tentacle became the sky. It struck. The force sent him tumbling through slime and spray. The tentacle passed over him, close enough to crush the air, close enough that the wind of it flung him into one of the hide ridges. He lay there for half a breath, a beetle the size of his own thumbnail, dazed and deeply proud. "Alive," he tried to say. It came out as a click. Still counted. The venom feelers lowered, searching. Their pale tips pulsed above him, each bulb now larger than his whole body. Small had solved the crushing. It had not solved being on a monster, large enough to be mistaken for bad geography. Tavaro called the hawk mark. It lived across his shoulder blades, 2 sweeping black scars with feather cuts inside them. The mark always answered too eagerly. It loved Sky. Tavaro understood that. Sky asked fewer questions than people. The beetle shell split into feather and heat. Wings struck slime. He beat them hard, once, twice, and tore himself free from the Ninemaw's back. His hawk body surged upward. Wind caught beneath broad wings. The sea opened beneath him. The monsters' mouths snapped and shrieked. Tendrils whipped upward. Too slow now. Too short. Tavaro climbed. Pain climbed with him. The numbness in his thigh had changed with his body, dulled in the way old scars dulled. Present as memory, the venom still had a claim. It dragged at the rhythm of his wings. His back burned where another feeler had caught him. His ribs complained in several dialects. He flew higher. The water spread under him, bright and cruel. His broken boat floated in pieces around the Ninemaw. That boat had survived 3 storms, 6 lesser Maw spawn, and 1 Sulari child who had decided the mast was a climbing tree while holding a cooking knife. "Bad news," Tavaro called down. In hawk form, the words came through the mark into no proper voice, more thought than sound. He said them anyway. "That was my best boat." The Ninemaw lifted 3 limbs from the water. The motion sucked waves inward. Its body rolled, revealing more of itself beneath the surface. Tavaro counted mouths again, because he did not trust fear to count for him. 9. All hungry, all angry. Excellent. Anger made flesh stupid, usually. Tavaro tucked his wings and dove. The Ninemaw swung at him. 1 limb cut across the air. He rolled beneath it, feathers brushing spray. Another rose ahead. He slipped between the suckers, close enough that one opened and tried to drink him from the sky. Missed. The central beak opened below. Tavaro aimed at it. The whale mark woke before he touched it. It lay along his spine, a broad, dark sweep from neck to lower back. The mark was weight, pressure, patience, force. Calling it was never graceful. He hated using it from height. He did it anyway. Wings vanished. Mass arrived. For a tiny, perfect instant, Tavaro was simply falling and becoming heavier than any reasonable creature should become. Then his whale body struck the Ninemaw. The sound beat the sky flat. He hit across the ring of mouths. Not clean enough to kill, clean enough to break. Flesh caved. 3 smaller mouths tore open. The stone beak cracked along one side. The Ninemaw folded under him and plunged back toward the sea. Pain detonated through Tavaro's body. The whale mark could make him vast. It did not make him immune to landing on a monster built like a drowned mountain. They crashed together. Water swallowed both. The sea went black with bubbles, blood, and churned slime. Limbs wrapped his whale body. Suckers gripped. Mouths bit. Venom bulbs scraped uselessly against thick hide in some places, and found softer flesh in others. Fire, numbness, pressure. The Ninemaw dragged him down. Tavaro thrashed. But the monster was not dying fast enough. Rude. A smaller mouth latched near his gill slit. Teeth sank in. Another tentacle wrapped around his tail and twisted. The central beak, cracked and furious, opened under him. It wanted to take him whole. Tavaro had been swallowed before. He did not recommend it. He released the whale mark. The body change snapped him back toward human shape too fast. The water rushed into the space where his bulk had been. Tentacles clenched on absence. Teeth scraped past his shoulder. Tavaro came out small by comparison. Human again, naked to the cold bleeding, the Skybone Line alive in his arm. He drove the anchor into the cracked edge of the central beak. The Ninemaw convulsed. The line tore from his wrist in a white coil. Tavaro kicked away, unspooling it. One loop went around a smaller feeding limb, another around a beak spur, another around the thick base of a mouth feeler. He did not plan so much as let his hands do what centuries of violence had taught them. Then the monster found him. A tentacle whipped through the water and struck him across the chest. His ribs gave no poetry, no lesson, just bone bending past its will, and a red burst of pain so bright his hands forgot what they were doing. The child Mark screamed heat under his broken ribs. Tavaro opened his mouth and lost air. The Ninemaw pulled him closer to the cracked beak. He could see into it now. The dark throat beyond, rows of stone ridges inside the mouth, pieces of shell, bone, and old boat wood stuck between them. A human charm tied to a bit of net. His humor fell away. Someone's boat, someone's prayer, someone who had thought the sea might let them pass. The Ninemaw dragged him in. Tavaro wrapped both hands around the Skybone Line. The cord cut into his palms. His right arm burned from wrist to shoulder. The seam, where the line lived, split open wider than it should. Blood streamed into the water and vanished. He planted both feet against the lower beak. "I am Tavaro of the Far Wake," he said into the sea, though the words came out as bubbles and fury. First oathbound of the Sulari, Island Razor, Tidebreaker, Unwanted Son. The child Mark pulsed once. He bared his teeth. Yes, I said it. He pulled. The Skybone Line tightened around the Ninemaw's mouths. The monster thrashed. The cord bit deep. Tavaro felt the anchor lodged in the cracked central beak. He felt every loop through the line, felt flesh and stone and muscle resisting him. It was like raising land, except land did not scream and try to eat his legs, usually. Tavaro pulled harder. His shoulders tore with effort. His spine arched. Broken ribs scraped inside him. The numbness in his thigh spread cold fingers down to his foot. He had no air left. The surface gleamed above, impossibly far. The Ninemaw opened all 9 mouths. The line cut through 3. The central beak split. The sound came through the water as a deep cracking roar. Tavaro held on. The anchor tore free in a spray of dark blood and shattered stone. The Skybone Line snapped back toward him, wrapped around his arm, and dragged him with it. For one spinning breath, he saw the Ninemaw's mouths collapse inward. The monster's own strength finished what his line had begun. Its limbs clenched around its broken center. The cracked beak drove into the softer throats around it. Blood clouded the water. The body bucked once, twice, a third time. Then the Mawdeep thing began to sink. It did not sink like a creature. It sank like a bad island giving up. Tavaro watched it drop into the blue dark, limbs trailing, mouths ruined, blood rising above it in slow ribbons. His chest spasmed. Air had become an urgent little project. He kicked. His numb leg did nothing useful. He kicked with the other. The surface wavered above him. The sea, with its usual talent for poor timing, seemed to get wider. His body had become a sack of pain with arms attached. His lungs clenched. Blackness crept into his sight. The Skybone Line tugged, not hard, not enough to save him by itself. It was not that kind of gift. Mareth gave roads. Mareth did not carry fools down them. Tavaro wrapped one hand around the line and pulled himself upward through the water, fist over fist. Each pull dragged fire through his ribs. Each kick sent knives along his thigh. The child Mark burned with every beat of his heart. He broke the surface. Air hit him. He swallowed half of it wrong and spent several ugly moments coughing seawater back into the sea, where it belonged. A gull circled overhead and screamed. Tavaro floated on his back amid wreckage, blood, foam, and pieces of his favorite boat. The gull screamed again. "Your concern is moving," Tavaro rasped. The gull left. Coward. The sun had shifted while he fought. It sat high and white, flattening the water into glare. Bits of Ninemaw drifted nearby. One pale venom bulb bobbed against a plank, still pulsing faintly. Tavaro pushed it away with 2 fingers. His hand shook. The Skybone Line coiled back into his arm. The anchor slid last through the seam at his wrist. It hurt worse going in. It always did. The cord settled beneath skin and bone with a final living shudder. Tavaro stared at his right arm. Blood ran from the seam in thin lines. That went well, he told it. The child mark pulsed. He looked down at his ribs. The little handprint sat amid bruising that had already begun to darken. It pulsed again. Slower this time. Less accusation. More presence. Still here. That was the thing about the child mark. It never praised him. It never applauded. It did not care whether songs carried his name across the Sulari Isles, or whether children carved his shoulders into driftwood toys. It only burned when he lied and warmed when he was close to breaking. Tavaro let his head fall back into the water. The sky above him was painfully clean. Somewhere far away, people would sail safer because the Ninemaw was dead. They might never know its name. They might never know his boat was gone, or that one of his ribs had chosen a new direction, or that his left leg currently belonged more to venom than to him. That was fine. It was supposed to be fine. He was the first oathbound, the island raiser. The sea scarred. He killed what came out of the Mawdeep, and dragged land from the deep for mortals to stand on. He did not need anyone to see the part after the song, when the hero floated alone and tried to decide whether breathing was worth the effort. A wave lifted him and set him down. The ruined boat knocked against his shoulder. He turned his head. The biggest surviving plank drifted within reach. It had part of the old stain on it. Good, he whispered. Someone sensible survived. He hooked one arm over the plank and hissed as his ribs protested. The nearest island lay somewhere west or east. Direction had become shy. He could wait for stars. He could call the hawkmark once the venom faded. He could let the current carry him until his body remembered how to be useful. First, he would float. Second, he would not die. Third, he would find Senaravale and pretend the damage looked worse than it was, which would fail because Senara knew bones better than he knew pride. Fourth, he would get another boat. Tavaro closed his eyes. The sea rocked him gently, as if it had not tried to kill him every day since infancy. Somewhere below, the dead Ninemaw sank into more deep dark. Somewhere beyond the horizon, mortals lived on islands he had raised, and called that safety ordinary. The child mark warmed beneath the bruises. Tavaro smiled without opening his eyes. As usual, he said. No one answered. That was usual too.
Watching, the tide runs cold. One boat drifting, one man laughing at teeth untold. A pale arm climbed the side like a rope, too slick to be a prayer. Tavaro hummed to the lazy wind, like trouble was not there. The child mark burned beneath his ribs, a little hand of flame. He looked down slow and smiled at death, like he already knew its name. He said, not you, to the crawling thing. When it tried to slip away, then Skybone woke inside his wrist, and pain began to pray. Pull from the bone, pull from the blood, holy gifts come hurting from sea foam, storm and mud. Pull, Tavaro, pull through the teeth of the deep. Nine mouths singing where the lost charms sleep. Fall as hawk, rise as whale, tiny beetle, burning sun. Business as usual for the silent breed with a stone-beak grin, and opened every door. The Ninemaw rose with hungry rings, and venom white as bone. It crushed his boat to splintered song, and dragged him down alone. He hit its back and lost his grace. His knees sang out in pain. He laughed because the world was cruel, and jokes were all that stayed. Small as shell, winged to sky, heavy as the old deep. Too stubborn, yet to die. Pull, Tavaro, pull, through the teeth of the deep. Nine mouths singing, wherever lost charms sleep. Fall as hawk, rise as whale, tiny beetle, burning sun. Business as usual for the unwanted one. Hey up, hold the line. Hey up, don't be done. Business as usual for the unwanted one. Beetle under the falling sky, clicking the living proud. Hawk above the broken boat, cursing at the clouds. Wailed from heaven, weight of storm, crashing mouth from mouth. But even gods in borrowed flesh still bleed when they come down. Then the black, he saw the charm, a sailor's little plea. Someone's boat, someone's prayer, caught in the monster's teeth. No more laughter, no more mask, no more song to hide behind. Only both hands on the burning core, only fury on the line. I am Tavaro of the far-awake island razor, tidebreaker, first oath-bound, sea scar, unwanted son. Pull, Tavaro, pull, till the stone beak breaks, till the deep spits blood, till the whole dock shakes. Three mouths torn, one heart gone, that island sinking under sun, and business as usual for the unwanted one. Hold the line. Don't be done. Business as usual for the unwanted one. First I float, second I live, third I lie to the healer again. Fourth I find another boat and sail back into the pain. The sea rocks soft like a mother's arm, though it tried to drown me young. No one answers when I smile. Business as usual for the unwanted one.